how to build wealth without taking a lot of risks. So stay tuned. I'm going to be going live. Give it a second, y'all. Give people a little bit of time to get in. All right, let's start this at around the minute mark. All right, today we're going to be talking about how to build wealth without taking a lot of risk and keeping control of your money, right? If you guys are new to my channel, my name is Pascal. I've been in financial services for about 8 years. I previously worked in accounting. I worked in accounting for 3 years. And right now I primarily focus on helping people with life, health, and retirement planning strategies, right? This is one of the biggest problems Americans don't realize, right? Is the main issue is they don't really have control of any of the money that's coming in, right? Because if you look at the primary saving vehicles, where people save and invest their money, right? It's going to be some sort of 401k or IRA type environment and some sort of bank account, right? And there's nothing necessarily wrong with 401ks and IRAs, all right? When used correctly, the employer gives a match, like taking advantage of that can be very advantageous. But the issue is the problem Americans end up in is that they don't really have any money for problems and opportunities, right? And one of the biggest problems is most Americans don't have even $1,000 in savings in terms of money saved up to take care of problems and emergencies. And this is like over 60% of Americans, as you can see, have this problem, right? And the average American that's saving and investing in a 401k, they basically are putting money aside until 59 and a half, right? They're saving and investing in the future to some extent, right? Even though 185 to 200,000, and this is for people that are around, I believe it was like 55 to 60. They have this amount in their 401k. It might be a little bit younger. I have to look at the exact number, but the issue is they're saving money into these retirement accounts. They can't access it, and they don't have a lot of savings, right? And I guess the best way that I could kind of picture this is my business partner, Brandon, that I've been working with for the last 4 years. He actually used to have a company 401k when he was working at a company previously. And when he decided to essentially quit and do the financial services industry full time, he was getting an employer match and he was contributing to his 401k because that's what people kind of told him what he had to do, right? People just said, hey, you got to invest in 401k, you got to save in the future. He ended up doing that. And then when he decided to leave, he had about 6,000 accumulated in his 401k, right? But what he didn't realize is when he was going to essentially take that money and he was okay with the penalties, okay with the taxes, he's like, okay, whatever, I'll just liquidate, right? A lot of companies, they have something known as a vesting period, right? And what does that mean, right? Companies might require you to work a certain period of time. Every company is different. Some of them don't have it. Most of them do. They require a 5-year vesting period for the company he was working in order for him to keep the match, which was, for his case, it was $3,000 in addition to $3,000 he's contributed. So since he left earlier, the company essentially kept the match, and then he still had to pay taxes and penalty fees on that money, right? And a big question you want to ask yourself, especially if you're unsure about whether you're going to be staying in a company long-term or like just thinking that you might not be there for 5 years, 10 years in your company. Like, even though the match can be perceived as a good thing, is really like, what's the benefit of positioning yourself in a way where you have no flexibility, no way to move around, no way to potentially like branch off and do your own thing, start your own business? Like, there's a lot of problems that kind of come with that, right? And most Americans will look at that as like, okay, I need to save money for retirement, but positioning is really important. Like you can save money for retirement and also have money to use for problems and emergency. Crazy concept, right? And advisors say you have to have 3 months. Like in my opinion, I don't think that's enough. I think you should have like a year or two. And one thing I really want to challenge you guys on is like, if you have a year or two of just liquid savings that you can access whenever you need, like how much more secure of a financial situation would you feel, right? Where if you didn't have to worry about your money getting locked up, you didn't have to worry about taxes, you didn't have to worry about inflation, but it's just in an account where you could access it. There's no market risk, and you could access your money whenever, and you just have 2 years of savings. Like how much more secure and peace of mind will you have in that situation? And I'm going to kind of go into that. I'm just kind of painting the picture in terms of what the problem is of most Americans. So hopefully you guys let's see if anyone's okay. And what it really comes down to is financial literacy, right? 70% of Americans can't answer basic financial literacy questions on risk management and compound interest. Things like what's more risky, a mutual fund or individual stock, or how compound interest works in a very simplistic way. And if you really think about it, right, if you have a goal, then there's a place that you want to end at, right? You have a desired outcome. If you're blindfolded and you're trying to throw darts at that desired outcome, like what are the chances that you're actually going to reach that goal, right? And that's most Americans. They don't really understand like things about risk management, how to manage the risk, liquidity risk, how to hedge against taxes. These are all important aspects when it comes to getting ahead financially. And the people that understand how to navigate the financial environment better are going to get ahead faster and get ahead more efficiently. So really, it comes down to this. And I want to talk about 2 pillars when it comes to your financial situation that is really going to matter when it comes to understanding money, right? And I'm going to start with is like how money gets taxed, right? There's 3 essential buckets when it comes to how money gets taxed, right? There's tax now, there's tax later, and then there's tax advantage, right? And taxes are one of the biggest expenses that you'll have, and understanding how to navigate taxes for your own benefit is going to be really important. So what's tax now, right? What gets taxed right away? You work, have a job, have a business, and you have working income, that gets taxed right away at income tax rates, right? If you have a CD, a money market where you're earning interest, or a brokerage account, that gets taxed away. And even if you have a bank, that would technically get taxed right away too as well. But you don't really grow any money in the bank much. So essentially it's no tax when it comes to saving money in the bank, right? But that's a category in terms of what's taxed now, right? Tax later is something like a 401k, an IRA, or 403b, 457, those type of accounts, right? These are tax deferred, essentially, which basically means, let's say, for example, you make $100,000 a year, right? Let's say you make $100,000 a year, and you decide that you want to put money aside in an IRA type environment or a 401k type environment. Let's say 401k to keep it simple. If you take $20,000 and you put it into this 401k environment, you're only going to get taxed on $80,000. Now, you're going to be paying taxes on the $80,000, full income taxes on the $80,000, but you're not getting taxed on the $20,000. But when you decide to take it out for retirement, that's when you're going to have to pay full income tax, not capital gains tax, which is less than income tax. You're going to have to pay full income tax on your money, right? And if you ever looked at a historical tax chart, right, no one could predict exactly what the future is going to be, whether taxes are going to be lower or taxes are going to be higher. We're at historically lower tax rates in comparison to the last like 50, 60, 70 years in terms of what taxes have historically been, right? So if we're in a historically low tax rate, does it really make sense to defer taxes? That's a question that you want to ask yourself, right? And this is the positioning that most Americans put themselves in, is they just defer, I'll pay later. And then when they decide to retire, essentially they have no tax advantage strategies to lower the tax bill in retirement. And they end up paying massive amounts of taxes, which could affect you in retirement. The last category I want to talk about is tax advantage, particularly with the Roth account and cash-value life insurance. They work very similarly. Real estate is a little bit different. I'll briefly go over that, but the Roth account and cash-value life insurance, basically, it's like when you save in accounts like that, like a cash value account or a Roth account, you're assuming taxes. Let's use the same example of someone that's making 100,000. You are essentially paying taxes on the 100,000. You're not deferring anything, but you put it into this account, right? Let's say it's a Roth account. Then when the money is growing, the money grows tax free in that account, and then later on when you get distribution, you can access it tax free, right? So the money grows tax free, you can access it tax free. So if tax rates go up in the future, you're not as concerned, right? And that's the advantage of having something like a Roth account or cash value life insurance. Real estate is similar to some extent, especially if you have like real estate of professional status. You could actually use real estate to lower your income tax, right? That's why you hear some people, they say they pay no federal income taxes because a lot of times they're using some sort of real estate depreciation strategy to lower the taxes. And real estate can be a very good tax advantage type vehicle, but it's a little bit more details and it works a little bit different than like a Roth account or cash value life insurance policy. Okay, and let's go into the next part. Let's go into how money grows, which is the next important thing, right? There's essentially three main ways money is going to grow. It's going to grow either the fixed way, the variable way, or the index way, right? Basically, when it comes to fixed account, when you put your money, it's you get a 3 or 4% interest rate in a money market account or a whole life policy, for example. It doesn't change. It's almost guaranteed. Well, sometimes money markets can't be, they change month after month, year after year, but essentially there's no market risk correlation with it. You just get the interest rate and they'll pay you like 3 or 4%. Less risk, but less return, right? The other way is called variable, right? This is when you're investing in mutual funds, when you're investing in stock markets, when you're investing in real estate, and investing in your own business. I would even put into that. I probably should have put that in there too as well. Right. This is where there's unlimited upside, but there's also unlimited risk. Right. And it's important to have a balance between uncorrelated assets where there's no market risk correlation, and also correlated assets where you're taking risk where you can make more money. Right. And that's where the mutual funds, bonds, stocks, real estate, your own business can go into, right? And there's nothing necessarily wrong with that, but it's just a matter of risk managing yourself properly, not getting too overzealous in this, investing too much money and not having any savings. You want to make sure you have a good balance between the two, having savings and also taking some risks, right? And the third option is called index, like an IUL, right? Which basically is a life insurance policy that's linked to a stock market where you can earn up to 10% and you have a guaranteed floor of 0. So these can return average around 5 to 7%, depending on how the market performs. But with these policies, essentially, it's linked to the stock market, but you don't directly have stock market risk when it comes to saving in these policies. Right? And I want to go into this a little bit. Let me go ahead and stop sharing this. I want to share my screen here. One moment, guys. I want to go into the 4 main risks when it comes to money in general when you save your money anywhere. And give me one moment. This is gonna be one of the most important things to understand when it comes to saving and investing your money. Okay. Make sure. Hopefully, you guys can see my screen. All right, you guys should be able to see my screen. Right. The 4 main risks when it comes to saving and investing your money anywhere is going to be tax risk. Oops, tax risk. There is going to be inflation risk. Oops, my bad. Cancel today. Inflation risk. There's going to be liquidity risk. And there's going to be see, inflation risk, liquidity risk, tax risk, market risk. So let me see. These are the main risks, right? I think most people get these two ideas. They understand market risk and they understand inflation risk. Most people get these two ideas. But when it comes to risk management and having a good plan that's essentially good in any economic environment, whether the market is up or down, whatever it is, you have to understand all the risk when it comes to your money, especially when it comes to these four. These are really important, right? So to kind of simplify it, the places that people save are the bank primarily, and it's going to be some sort of 401k or IRA type environment. All right. People understand when you save money in the bank, there's inflation risk. Your money gets less valuable every year, right? Most people understand that. And the problem with that is, even though like you're saving money in the bank, obviously you have money saved in the bank and everything to protect yourself from emergencies, which you should have money per saved for emergencies. The problem with that is, as you have money saved in the bank, like you just essentially your money's getting killed by inflation and you don't have as much purchasing power. And this is why people end up investing into like a 401k or IRA, right? But what risk are you taking when you invest in a 401k or IRA? You're taking market risk, you're taking liquidity risk, and you're taking tax risk, right? So essentially, by avoiding one problem, you create three others. And this is why even Ted Bennett, the creator of the 401k, even said that even though this can help you having a 401k or say having your employer match, those could be great things. It shouldn't be your only asset that you save into and invest into. It should not be the only asset. So, what if there was a way you could have 3 years in savings? You didn't have to worry about the market going up or down. You didn't have to worry about inflation. You didn't have to worry about taxes. And you could position yourself to have 2, 3, 4 years of savings and never have to worry about that. And how much more stable of an environment would you feel like you're in if you knew that something like your car broke down, your house broke down, your wife needs something, your kids need something? Like, what if you could just pay and be stress free, right? And this is why cash value life insurance is a great foundational plan, right? It's not meant to replace your investments by any means. You want to make sure you're still investing, but you should definitely allocate money into a cash value life insurance policy because it's going to position you a lot better, right? At least for a 5 to 7 year period to max fund your policy. And then after that 5 to 7 year period, you don't have to contribute any more money in the policy. The IRS slows down how fast you could fund a life insurance policy because the tax benefits are so advantageous and the liquidity benefits are so advantageous, right? The fastest you're going to be able to fund it is around the 5 to 7 year period, right? And with a cash value life insurance policy, you're hedging against tax risks, so your money grows tax free, and you also can access it tax free, right? It hedges against inflation because if you're using something like an index policy, you could earn up to 10%, right? So the market goes up, so does your policy, right? And typically, when inflation is up, so does the market go up. At the same time, typically correlations to that to some extent. It hedges against liquidity risk because some of these policies can have an 80% to 90% access. Some people don't realize that because maybe you have a policy and you're like, why don't I have that much access to it? If you max fund your policy, right, you can access money from the policy in the first 30 days, right? The money is very accessible and you'll be able to use it for problems and opportunities whenever you need to, right? And it hedges against market risk because even from IUL, you have a 0% floor. You don't lose money due to market risk with a cash value policy. So the market go down 20%, 30%, you're not concerned. And this is why allocating money to a policy, this builds a strong nest egg that you could essentially use whenever problems or opportunity arrive, right? And you don't have to worry about all these other risks when it comes to your money, right? You still want to take market risk and go ahead and invest in your business, invest in the stock market, invest in something that can give you a potential higher return. But why not save in a place where there's no tax risk, your money grows tax free, get a 5 to 7% rate of return, you access your money right away, and there's no market risk correlation. A lot of people don't look at it like that, but this is why personally I save around 20 to 24,000 on an annual basis in my policy because of all these benefits, and I wouldn't really be able to get it anywhere else. So I want to go into that. And then that last thing I want to show you guys is just kind of like a sample of what it could look like and how it could be added to a plan. Hopefully, you guys are enjoying the content so far, and we'll kind of get into the next idea. So let me go ahead and stop share over here. All right. Yeah, we're gonna go into some sample designs in terms of what that would look like, and I want to kind of go over a concept too as well. That's really important to understand. Um, there was actually an Ernest and Young study talking about the most optimal way to save for retirement, right? And let me make sure I share my screen so you guys can see it. 1 second. Let me share my screen. Okay, here. Oops, no. One moment, guys. So when I get the slide open for you guys so you guys can see what I'm talking about. There was actually an Ernest and Young study, and I could show you guys this article. You could Google it if you just put Ernest and Young insurance retirement study. You should be able to find it. It basically ran something known as a Monte Carlo simulation, and it was just basically what that is. It's multiple retirement outcomes just being shown, right? And they found that the buy term invested difference strategy performs worse than having life insurance, having annuities, which is essentially a self-funded pension, and having stock market correlated assets, right? They found that in most of their simulations that they ran, when you have all that combination with all of those assets in there, that gave the best retirement outcome, right? By far. You can look on the study. They're the top four accounting firm, or one of the big four accounting firms, and it just goes into detail in terms of why. And there's something known as sequence of return risk, meaning when the market goes down, that's the worst time to take your money. But if you have market insulated assets, you're not as affected, because at the end of the day, when you're retired, whether the market goes up or down or sideways, you're going to need to take out money, right? So you can't wait for the market to rebound like a younger person can, right? And I want to show an example of someone that's, say, like maybe they're able to save 20K a year, right? And they're taking an employer match, and let's say they're a nurse, right? Like what I would encourage someone to do is like take the match, like go ahead and take the match, but allocate a portion of that money into a cash value policy for like a 5 to 7 year period, so you can build that savings nest egg. So when something happens, when your family needs something, you need something, or whatever it is, you have the stability and flexibility to access somebody to take care of the problem and periodically just put the money back in the policy, because you're still going to be able to get supplemental retirement from it, but it's just like a safety nest egg. Because I honestly don't believe, like, if I was to say 3 months of savings, I personally don't think that's enough. I'd feel a lot more secure having a lot more access to money. And I want to show you an example of how you can position yourself in a way to do that. If I can just go ahead, 1 second, guys. All right. Okay, give me a moment. I want to make sure I have the right policy design of someone that's 40 years old and what it looks like to save money in the policy. Okay. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the content so far. All right, perfect. This is what I want to show. Go ahead and share this. Let's see. I want to pull up the illustration to show you guys. Just bear with me as I'm going through some of these tech issues. Okay. open it up over here. And this is going to be a good sample design for you guys to see what it could potentially do for you. Let's see. Okay. Just saved it. No, not this one. Yeah, so basically what I'm trying to show you guys is a policy design that where someone could save 10K for like, 5-7 year period, and they no longer have to save in it. And this is giving me a little bit of a hard time to pull it up right now. Probably should have had that pre-planned for you guys. So I'm going to be waiting on this, but let me try it one more time. Let's try this. Okay, let's see if it is a desktop. 10K max. Let's see all that. Okay, I think I got it now. Okay. Here we go. All right, perfect. So I'm gonna share my screen with you guys and kind of show you this sample design. There is an example. Let me see, make sure you guys can see. Yeah. So here's an example of someone saving 10,000 for around a 7 year period. Technically, this person could also save for a 5 year period and be fine and not save any more money in the policy. So the death benefit is cut off over here, but I want to just take a look to see exactly what the death benefit number. But when it comes to policy designs like this, we're solving for something known as the minimum non-MEC, right? The minimum non-MEC. And basically what that means is it's the lowest amount of insurance you could qualify for and the most amount of cash you can put into the policy. And when you're trying to solve for that, basically what you're doing is you're just minimizing your costs and fees. So the policy death benefit for a policy design like this is around 250,000. Right? It's a very exact number when it comes to policy designs. Right? When you're trying to find the right death benefit for the amount you're putting in. And the reason why is just we're trying to make sure that the cost of insurance fees are as low as possible. Right? And when it comes to cash value life insurance policies, the lower your death benefit is, the higher your cash value is going to be. And if you see where it says non-guaranteed cash surrender value, this is based on a 5.5% rate of return. If you contribute 10,000, right, 8,000 would be accessible that you can access tax-free if our market risk. And every single year as you contribute, you could see more and more access to your money is available, right? So imagine being able to earn 5.5% tax-free without market risk, where you could exit whenever you need, right? Where you're hedging against inflation, hedging against taxes, you have liquidity. And this is how you basically set a situation for yourself where you have a year or 2 or 3 of savings, right? I'm showing that you're only saving for 7 years, but if you wanted to save more, you could save more if you want to be more aggressive when it comes to saving. But basically what I'm showing here is someone just saving that for that 7 year period, stopping, and then maybe they're going ahead to invest that money somewhere else, right? And as you can see, when you're building up this cash and liquidity, it makes you feel a lot more secure because as you're taking risks, doing things, you know you have a safety net that you can access whenever you need for problems or opportunities. And with this example, right, they kept doing this, they were able to get approximately a supplemental retirement income for 20 period of around 12 to 14,000. And I'll just pull up the second page so you guys have it in terms of what the income would look like. But essentially, if they just did that for a 7 year period and stopped, they would have about 13,000. And that's a great thing when it comes to these policies is it could give supplemental tax-free retirement income. Obviously, it's not guaranteed, but there is that potential if you earn based on the average rate of return, you can take out a certain amount of money. And I'm gonna just show that to you. And let me go ahead and give it a second. Part, let's call it. Okay, 1, 2. So let's pull up the example of what it would look like if you decided that you pay back all of your loans that you took out and you wanted to get supplemental tax-free retirement income. Let me go ahead and share the screen and go ahead and share this one. All right. You can see over here about 13,000 of tax-free income for about a 20-year period. And you can see, obviously, there's still a death benefit associated. The number does go down because, technically speaking, when you borrow from an insurance policy, you're borrowing against insurance death benefit. You're not borrowing against your value built in your policy, right? And obviously, it's not going to be meant to replace your entire retirement, but it's a good way to supplement it along with other investments. If you have a 401k match and you're maxing that out, and then you have this, and then you have Social Security, and maybe there's things that you're building, whether it's for your career or your business, that you have more money that you would have access to, right? But basically, that's what I wanted to share with you guys. Hopefully, you enjoy your content like this. If you enjoy trying to find ways to save and invest better in a more efficient manner, like make sure you follow this page. I'm going to be trying to do lives like this more often. So if you enjoy this type of content, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And yeah, we'll see you guys next time. This is one. And if you guys want to find me, financial ownership is essentially like all my social medias is called financial ownership for YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. You could find me with that search name anywhere. Jim. Yep. All right, guys. I'll catch you.